adopted me.
Yeah, Connor's the brother from the
Adopted
other
son.
mother.
He adopted the DeCorso that they could never have.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna be off camera for this one. Let's get going here. This is, to my immediate left, David DeCorso, Connor and Jack, Connor Hamilton and Jack DeCorso. These folks are from Victoria Park. And I think you've been around Guelph long enough now that you know that the Victoria Park family is really important to golf in this area. Not only because they provide affordable public play, but because the DeCorso family has been involved in turf, golf course environments specifically, for the longest time now. They're important to the University of Guelph, to the GTI committees, everything. David has been instrumental in moving turf ahead at the University of Guelph, and I just want to start by saying we thank you for that very much. We're going to have a conversation, the same questions that I go through every time, but of course the answers are always different, aren't they? So if you don't mind, we'll get started, and I'm going to start with David. What's your turf education training history? Why are you a turf manager?
Well, I thank you for that lovely introduction. I grew up on a golf course. My family owned Victoria Park West Golf Course in Guelph, and I literally it opened when I was 1 year old, so I grew up there, and I always wanted to be involved in the golf course business, and I just gravitated to outside. I just loved, my dad was a superintendent.
Yeah.
Later he had to move inside, but I just loved, being around the equipment on the moors, being outside.
Yeah.
And it was my calling. And I tried playing golf, a little competitive as a junior, and I knew.
Are you a good golfer? I don't even know.
No, that's why I quit.
Okay.
Went to become a turf manager. But some of my family members went on to pursue professional golf, and cousins and that, and I just loved it. And Wayne Rath is a Guelphite who's now one of the premier superintendents in Canada, and he's at Magna Golf Club, and he was actually my boss at Victoria Park. He's a Guelphite, and he was going to Seneca College at the time, so I actually went to Seneca and took their 2-year golf course technician program.
So you guys know Beaker. He was in...
So Mike Van Beek's first year at teaching was my last, so I was graduating year. And so I know Mike Van Beek since 1987, so, and then he had my son Jack last year, so that's, talk about full circle.
It's full circle.
Yeah, it was a good program, a good college program, and it's no longer around, and there probably wasn't enough students to that Guelph, the 2-year program, and the Seneca program.
Yeah,
so
the nails on the coffin for Seneca might have come when the DTM program opened up at Guelph, though I don't know if that's completely true. But
and then I took, but Guelph was still the mecca of turf in Canada, and like Mike Van Beek, all the instructors from Seneca were Guelph grads.
Yes.
And then I took the turf manager short course in 1992. A few years after graduating and being involved, and that was very common for turf young superintendents or assistants at that day to do that hardcore month education and absorb it all in. And I found it very helpful.
I've asked this before, and I'm sorry, I've simply forgotten. Have any of you taken the turf manager short course? No one here? Because we have a couple guys in second year who went from the turf manager short course to the diploma. Very unusual to go from a diploma offering to a short course.
A lot of my colleagues from Seneca at the time also did that. They took the after a few years. And so we had Jack Eggins was still around as an instructor. Tom Shung was a very young pathologist. The late Norm McCullen taught us weeds. So it was I was there at the right time.
You sure were.
So
Connor, sorry, David. Keep going.
Well, as far as education, as far as formal education, but I've never stopped taking, seminars, even, 2-day seminars through
Beautiful.
different associations.
It's
I never
interesting you
stopped.
say that. I was just giving some closing comments to the second year guys. I won't have them again. And one of the things I said to them today is don't ever stop educating yourself. You must be determined and keep going to, as David says, a 1-day seminar, a week-long seminar, 10 conferences, where you not only get education, but you network and things like that.
Like
It's
what I
important to
thought
get
I
it.
knew graduating, and then what I realized I didn't know after a few years. It's a vast industry with vast knowledge, and so just be patient with yourselves and learn all you can. And experience is number one. And but coupled with the experience, when you do get some higher training and education through seminars or conferences, you'll just learn that much more because you've experienced it. So you know, never stop. If you
Never
have
stop.
to keep going.
Yeah. It's an important lesson. Connor, where did you come from that you're now sitting up here and being a turf manager at Vic Park?
Yeah, so my career started up in Muskoka. I'm originally from London, Ontario, and then probably when I was 19 or 20, I moved up to Muskoka, or 2 years at Muskoka Lakes Golf and Country Club. Then came down here to this program, and then from there went out west with Jack. Worked at Point Grey with Doug, Shaughnessy and Marine Drive, which was fantastic, great learning experience. And then came back down here, and then obviously with COVID, had plans to go overseas to the UK, but obviously didn't happen. And then I was thankful enough Dave opened up his doors for me, and here we are.
Yeah, thanks. Jack, and you? Your
Yeah,
story will be a
so-
little bit like your
Yeah,
dad's.
it's pretty similar to my dad. Pretty much grew up on beside a golf course, so I always knew what I wanted to do. And fortunately, the program is here at golf, so I could, live at home. So I did.
But you didn't your second year, did you? You lived out with some of the other guys and.
No, I lived at home.
Okay, you did.
both
Okay.
years. Yeah, but I always knew that I wanted to do this. Is something I want to get into. I started working on a golf course, like back shop, probably when I was like 12 or 13, and around there. And then I started working grounds when I was 15 to, I'm 21 right now, so that gap. And yeah, education here at golf, just graduated. Worked at Victoria Park and out west, and
Yeah.
still learning and growing.
Hey, an interesting question. Were you three guys strong academically in other programs? Like, was high school enjoyable for you, or was this where you pulled it all together?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like an A student by any means.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like,
I'm just talking about focus. Once you know what you want
yeah,
to do,
no, it's,
it seems to come
I definitely
together.
focused a lot more in this program versus high school. I mean,
Yeah.
like for me again, I always knew I was gonna be on the golf course, right? It is like I really didn't give two craps about like history or music.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't care.
And now you're a diehard music player, but
Yeah, you're a bass guy, aren't you? Bass man. Yeah.
Well,
But
I
then
was
like, yeah. So
I
sorry.
was the exact same. I didn't really apply myself that much in high school. I did
Yes,
okay,
same with me.
but then as soon as I entered, the turf program, I just loved it, and I strived
Couldn't get
to
enough,
do the
huh?
best. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was, and I did very well.
Yeah.
And I sometimes wonder if I tried harder in high school, but it's okay. Everyone
Yeah.
everyone grows
Everyone's
at a
path
different,
is
at a
unique,
different
yeah.
level.
Connor, same for you? Is the turf program where you really got focused on?
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
high school I was a menace, like I honestly didn't, I was a pretty, not a good student, and then, just golf, you realize, I actually enjoy doing this, and
Very cool.
actually want to put in the time and effort to grow
Excellent.
yourself. So.
I just asked that because I think some of the younger people in this class, coming to the university, it's very different. The learning experience is different. And what I'm trying to suggest is, if you're into turf, this will all come together for you. I mean, there's no promises, but it would seem to me it was same for me in landscape architecture in high school. I was, doing whatever you did back in the 70s, and most of it not good, but When I got into landscape architecture, it all started to make sense for me, and I was never a top student, but I was certainly successful in a challenging program. So I just want you to know that. Hey, what's the history of Victoria Park? Where did you guys come from?
Well, my father, you know, an immigrant from Italy, and he had enough, not very educated, a grade 4 education, and you know, worked in a couple of factories as a young man, and realized it wasn't for him. So the government was subsidizing trade schools, and he went to barber school. He thought this is a clean.
What year is this, David?
Late 50s. You know, this is a clean job. You know, and he, within a year of getting his certificate for becoming a barber, he opened up his own shop in Guelph, and within a couple of years, you know, he realized a lot of ladies were looking to get their hair done. That's a hairdressing, and so he opened up.
Remember, we're talking about turf management, huh? This is the journey of life.
And he became very successful at hairdressing, and had a couple shops, and made some money, and he did that for about, you know, 13 years, and realized he wanted to do something else, and he invested in some land, and he got introduced to the game of golf by my uncle, his younger brother, who was a caddy at the Golf Country Club and was an excellent golfer who became a golf professional.
Your
And
uncle did?
Yeah, and he said, let's open up a golf course, and they knew nothing, and they you know, went to the bank, and they, you know, and he said, well, you know, back then banks were you know, would give you some capital to invest in a golf course. You could never do that today. Immigrant barber from Italy could never go to a bank and they give him whatever it took to open up a golf course. But he opened up the modest,
what a shame, huh?
yeah, the modest Victoria Park West, and hired Rennie Muellert, who was a local architect from London, Ontario, who you know, should be in some sort of sports hall of fame in Ontario.
Yeah.
And he wasn't you know, a Doug Carrick or a Thomas McBroom, but very, very respected architect of the day, and he would build what you can afford to, you know, he would tailor his build, his design to what you can afford. And so that was the first golf course, was the West Course, which was a par 3 and 4 executive golf course.
Which has, just as a little update, has been turned into development.
It's no longer there.
Yeah.
And then 7 years later, they realized, and it was one of the only public golf courses in town.
Yeah.
So then they opened up the Victoria Park East Golf Course, where your tournament was this year, the DTM alumni tournament.
Yeah.
Again, Rennie Muellert was the architect, and he needed his 2 brothers to help him. And when one uncle was a golf professional at the time, and my other uncle became the golf course superintendent, and you know, my grandparents had to help out, and they did it.
Smokes.
And that was successful since 1974 till, you know, I guess 2011. The West Golf Course closed. My dad sold off the property to a developer, and
How many acres was that?
it was
David?
100 acres.
Okay.
And then we purchased land, which is now the Victoria Park Valley Golf Course,
Yeah.
and we opened that in 2012. And that's, you know, I was one of the driving forces, because
Yeah.
by then I was in the business.
Yeah.
And now we have the 2 golf courses.
How is it? What's the question? A family-owned public golf course. Are there specific challenges that you care to share, or attributes to being a family-run public golf course?
Well,
do you love it, David?
Well, yeah, I mean, the family has to get, not all family members could do this, but the family has to get along, but, you know, but it's been a good experience for me. I mean, we all worked there. I worked there as a kid, and my kids worked there, and my cousins, you know, worked there, so we all had a place to work. We all played golf there. We hung out there, you know, all the time, so it was a great experience, and as long as the family can get along, you know, it could be a great thing.
How many rounds of golf did you put through this year? We were talking about this earlier.
Well, COVID, there's been nothing better for golf than COVID, and you know, and it's crazy. And golf has been on a downturn for the last 20 years, and we've had our best year in 20 years easy. And we didn't open up till May 16th, when, you know, Doug Ford allowed us to open up, and we put through about 32,000 rounds at our 18-hole East course, and about 45,000 rounds at our Valley course, which is an executive course in 27 holes.
So what did we say earlier? That's a sort of like about 70,000, 80,000 rounds? you put through?
77,000
70,000, we'll say, 70,000 rounds.
for the
went
2
through.
golf courses. Right?
That ain't bad.
No, it's been, like I said, as far as business, I mean, it was so busy, it was overwhelming, and all the staff are stressed out, even like in the pro shop side, and the turf management side. It was very challenging to get things done, but like I said, we've been struggling financially for a while. I mean, we're okay, but it was just, can you afford that new greens more? Can you afford to update, some of that stuff? It was always a question mark, and but this year it was good. So golf it's good to see. It's if it stays, it's another good industry.
Question for Connor, because Jack is a family member. Connor, what do you think of working at a public golf course? And by that, what was your learning experience this year as compared to previous years when you were at private golf courses? Is it different at a public course? If these guys, what I'm trying to say is as I look out to the class, I would imagine, for those of you looking at golf courses for the future, 98% of you are saying, I want to work at a high-end private course, best of everything. What do you think?
For me, this has honestly been my happiest year since I've been in the turf. I've only ever worked private up until this point.
Right.
So I only had that private mindset. But then coming here to a public and then family public course that we were just talking about, the community was like, I loved every second of it. Like, I really felt like they wanted me there. Like, the pro shop wanted me, the golfers wanted me, Dave, like everyone, like, it was just a really good community.
Yeah.
Private, like up north and even out west, it just kind of seemed like, get in, do your job and get out. We don't really want to see you. Just kind of, you're here, do your job, see you later.
Yeah.
After this year, like, I would say to you guys, don't ever rule out the public golf courses. I think you have a bigger chance of almost learning more at public golf, because everyone has this mindset of, top end, private, I want to be there. If you look at some of these courses, like, especially in the States, you're just another number. Like, they might have like 10 or 12 of you guys. Well, now you've gone from maybe being able to be really a part of the fertilized program or managing the staff. You're now just raking bunkers and hand watering. So I would say, never rule out the public. Don't completely disobey the private, but definitely look at both sides. The money's the same. You don't make less or more private versus public, at least in my shoes. I just had a pretty
Great
stress carefree year.
Good. Jack, anything you want to add to that?
No, yeah, it's pretty much just backing what Connor said. And for your internships, there's a lot of, I definitely talk to like past interns, because I hear it all the time. People go to like the Baltic Strolls and stuff in the States in the big course, and it's like all they do is just, they hand water, they do really nothing, versus if you come to like a public golf course, it's like we need someone who can spray and fix the irrigation. It's not like we want it because we want you to learn. It's like we need you because we need you to do it, versus at big clubs where they have, super 2 assistants, second, spray tech, irrigation tech, hand watering team. It's like, where do you fit in there? Versus like, it's like me and my dad. It's like, you'll be like right there, you know?
That sounds like an invitation for potential interns to reach out to Victoria Park. I'm saying it right now. I think you guys would be happy to have interns.
Well, I think I'm not sure if it's part of your questions, but.
This is just something.
Like for years and years, there was, graduates would come out and there wasn't that much for them. Now, people are getting second assistant jobs, AIT jobs, like right away.
We've been hearing that, haven't we,
and
guys?
it's like I think there's just so many years of there's just this vacuum in the industry where now everywhere we're just dying for people like yourself. So it's good to be in your shoes right now.
That goes down. Let's jump right to one of our last questions. What do you think the future holds for young people entering this industry?
Right now, it is very good.
Yeah.
And you can, like, and I know, with a few years' experience and some education, you can make, more money and have job security with benefits at a good facility, whereas people would have took 10, 12 years to be in the industry to get that. And that's only going back 5 years. People be 35 years old, who've worked on a golf course for 15 years, to become a second assistant or assistant at some of these places where they're 24 years old and just graduated 2 years ago. It's just, people are looking for, like Westmount, I mean, great you got there, but they had a hard time, there weren't too many applicants for that second assistant job, right? And who would have thought Westmount, top 10 golf course in Canada, they should have had 100 applicants. It's just bizarre. Where are all these people?
So David, does this mean our students are in the driver's seat when it comes to applying to jobs?
Well, I think there's just, I guess there's just really good jobs out there. It's a great position as opposed to nothing, and I mean, my daughter just graduated in another program, and it was a little daunting trying to find a job, whereas, all Jack's friends in turf, and I have a nephew who's a graduate, Nick Verduzco, he's now working at Thornhill in Toronto, and he got a great job, and so it's just been, it's nice to see. It's been a long time coming.
It couldn't be a better time for you guys. It just couldn't be a better
Other
time.
than this COVID year with this thing.
Yes,
Put
I
that
know.
behind you, but.
I know. Well, and as we were saying just before class got started, fingers crossed next year, the winter will be like this, but next year, let's hope the campus is wide open.
And it's not an easy business, and I have this, you gotta love it, and I have this conversation with a lot of young people. If you're looking for 9 to 5 and weekends off, and if that really means a lot to you, then, it's probably, are you gonna be totally happy with this job? Because, as you all know, you gotta at least work every other weekend. Some golf courses might be doing every third weekend, but, and that's as a crew member, a second assistant, or even assistant. When you become a superintendent, some of the superintendents might be taking every other weekend off, but it's their baby, their responsibility. When it's hot and dry and things are scary, they are around, they have to be around. So, but if you love the job like I do, I'm not counting hours, I'm not counting days. If I was away on a vacation, and it's the middle of summer, and I've taken a few, I'm so stressed out at what's going on at work. I just want to know what's going on at work. I love even, we all work early. We finish, mid-afternoon, go home, have a little rest, have dinner. I love going back out to the course in the evening, taking a cart ride, take my dog for a run, go with the kids, take a golf club, and I'm fortunate enough to live very close to the golf course, and I just love it. Like, I just love it, and I just see what's going on. And, usually, especially with irrigation, and I'm watering tonight. Am I watering enough? Walk on some of the dry greens, and people say, well, "What do you do? Well, why would you do that?" Well, I just love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else. So.
Hey, just a question that comes to mind now. In the care of a public course, are your expectations for playability different than at a very high-end private course? That is, do you manage your greens? Do you think you manage your greens differently? Guys, from your experience out west, are you managing greens differently? Are you watering differently?
Well, I think it goes with your budget, or not just, it's your what type of golf course are you? I mean, there's high-end public golf courses.
Of course.
Resort courses, and if you're paying $150 to play golf there, or more, the expectations are high.
Yes.
If you're charging $30 for a green fee, people's expectations are not, but consumers still want value for their money. So we operate the East course, which I consider a mid-range, budget course, and I guess with a card it's $75 prime time, 65 to 75. The Valley course, it's 32 to walk, and 40.
Such a great deal.
And I do find there's even a different between those two courses, like our East course, and it's certainly not a Westmount or any of the Deer Ridge, or but people's expectations, they expect the greens rolling good all the time. COVID, thank God for COVID, we don't have to rake bunkers so many times, but bunkers are always a pain in the butt. Golfers always hate bunkers. because they want them perfect. This year we had an excuse because we couldn't have rakes in the bunkers. But you go out to the valley, and people almost treat it like a cottage course, and they love being out there. And we even have a lot of cutting club members come to the valley for whatever reason, and they just think it's the greatest thing, and they don't complain, and it's nice. And whereas I know at the cutting club, their expectations are up here. And
But you made a point, and I jotted this down because I think it's a critical point. I put down, I meant to say public, for a public course, you still need to meet players' expectations. I think that's critical. I mean, you can say my budget is this, my budget's that, my clientele is this or that. You know, there are golf courses out in the middle of farm country, and you might say, hey, I'm catering to a farming community, but it still has to meet players' expectations.
Well,
I think that's a really good point.
A lot of people kind of forget, like probably like 95% of the golfing world is public golf. Like only probably 5% can afford to pay $50,000 memberships at these clubs.
Right.
So like Vicky's is like a nice public golf course. So like people, like my friends, they all play and they all say like, oh, it's a nice course. Like you got to play. And there are courses that are just kind of like people say dog tracks, and you know people know that. So they always got to be nice, because that's the golfing world is public golf.
Jack,
right?
right.
It's like everyone.
We're almost elitists in this class, aren't we? We're getting an education. We're going to be at the top of the game. You know, our future is private golf courses. Well, like you say, Jack, the great majority of the golfing public
growing
is
too, right? The game, people don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars to be.
And you have to, and public or private courses love, you know, people in the golf industry love, you need public courses, you need municipal golf courses in the state, like low, affordable public golf courses for the game to grow, for people to start golf.
Yeah.
They're never gonna, people just don't walk into the National and Devil's Pulpit, and, you know, a lot of times.
This is where I'm going to learn to play the game
they,
at the National.
You know, sometimes they do if they're a grandson or a child, but, you know, for the game to grow, you need the masses to play.
Yeah.
And then obviously if you become more affluent and get a good job, well, you're gonna maybe join a nicer club or a private club. So you need all golf courses for a successful industry.
Affordable golf will grow the game.
And, you know, and like I said, even at our Valley course, compared to our East course, we have POA bent fairways and greens, so we have to manage for dollar spot on our fairways. We have to manage for you know, snow mold on our fairways. You know, it's expensive. We have to apply fungicides for that. Our Valley course, we grew low-mow Kentucky bluegrass with the knowledge that we weren't gonna have to worry about that. So it's not cut as tight; they're cut higher. And it was a budgetary reasons, because we wanted to promote affordable golf. I don't even know if golfers notice it. But definitely the budget, we notice it, and how we maintain them. And we have like 30 tiny little bunkers, whereas the East course has 70 bunkers, all different shapes and sizes. So the sheer labor to maintain the two courses are totally different. But the greens, we treat the greens the same. And the greens, half the game is played on the greens.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a par 72 golf course, you allow 2 putts a green, that's 32.
shots.
So half the game is played on the greens.
Yeah.
And if you've got good greens, that's all people really care about. And any ma and pa type golf courses versus the high, you can have nice greens, and like I said, the consumer is smart, and most of them, and they go in there and they want value for their money. And if they go and pay $35, $40, they don't need flower beds on every tee deck, and you know, there could be some pine cones and branches that weren't picked up, and see a few dandelions here and there. But you know, they appreciate their greens putting well, and I think we've been successful on that end.
So good greens are always a priority.
Yes.
And have you noticed today, my friends, that David is either intentionally or just, you know, it's just coming out, consumers. His golfing public are consumers. We haven't heard that from anyone else this semester, and I think it shows a very wise mentality. I'm not saying that right. Look, he's in a business. The DeCorso family wants to make some money, and I don't mean to undermine that you offer anything other than great playing conditions, because that's a fact. whenever I play it I'm more of a Vic Valley guy, and I'm just always astounded what great condition the course is in. But this is quite different than any other speaker we've had or any place we've visited. They want a return on investment, right?
Well, you need customers. They're my boss. I mean, in a way, I'm my own boss.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have golfers and customers, repeat customers, I'd go out of business.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, whether it was just a restaurant or a golf club, you need, customer service has to be, my job is just to worry about growing grass and worrying about dollar spot and drought. It is a big part of my job, and I love that, but I'm also worried about the customers.
Yeah.
And I have to work together with the other departments and to be a team. And the pro shop, like them or not, they have to deal with the customers more than the turf people have to deal with the customers.
Yeah.
But we have to provide the product, to make sure they're happy. And,
It's a really unique environment you live in. And as Jack so wisely said, look, let's face it, most golf is public golf, but we get so used to these private courses with maybe no responsibility with finances in mind to the membership, and I'm probably saying that all wrong.
I guess one advantage to public golf versus private. Private clubs, usually they have great resources. Their maintenance facilities are beautiful. They got good budgets, but it can be challenging working for the clients because the clients are, you have the same 300 to 500 people there all the time. Some members actually own the golf course.
Yes,
they own an equity. They're all your bosses.
Like Beacon Hall.
And so you basically literally work for all these people that are have a little complaint or concern about the bunkers, the pine cones, the greens not being fast. You top dressing, you're fixing your irrigation break in front of their shot. Whereas at a public golf course, there's not that same. You basically work for the owner or the superintendent, and there's job security. I think there's a lot of pressure working at a private club, and for some of these, is that fair to say you guys that work at a private club where working for?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say.
Look, every day. We'll talk about the typical day in a minute. Yeah, I'm getting so caught up with the first few questions. Hey, I'm going to ask Jack and Connor this: management staff. What do you see now as young turf managers? How will you provide leadership versus being a boss? Leadership to me is being attentive, insightful, energetic. A boss is just saying, do that. I don't care if you don't want to do it. I don't care if you don't understand it. What are your thoughts on?
Well, I'm not really fully in that role
no,
yet.
I know that, Jack,
But just, from my experience, and then this is just the privileges that we have at the public course. Like Connor and I, and he lives in Brampton, we play golf all the time. Everyone on crew, Matt, we play golf like 3-4 times a week. We go to the clubhouse, we all get breakfast specials from the kitchen and stuff, and it's like, you go to a private golf course, like, you're nowhere near the clubhouse. To get a game there, it's like an arm and a leg. It's only like this time, and it's like, I'll play on like a Saturday morning with Matt at like 11 o'clock, like prime time carts. It's not a big deal. So I think that's one way versus public versus private that really helps motivate.
I think it's
staff.
also just a meaningful way to motivate staff.
Like we had one guy who worked at Coppenwood, which is like a top 20 golf course, not a golfer, and he just thought this was how golf was. He's like, okay, all golfers, you're just kind of rich pricks, and you're just kind of, all that you did was rake bunkers and trim. Like, that's it, right? Hand water. And then he comes to like a public golf course, Victoria Park, and it was like literally night and day for him.
Hey, that's a very cool idea. Provide leadership by offering job variety. Does that make sense? To be stuck at, and I understand that if you're, and that's my comment, so be careful that, don't run with that. I understand that at any course you might have a bunker crew, some high school students, you teach them, the basics of bunker work, and that's what they do. But it's, what you just said, Jack, resonates with me, that leadership allows leads you to allow staff a variety of experiences.
Oh, yeah, I
I
think
like
it's-
that idea.
It's because another reason is like our staff's a lot smaller. Like at the East Course, how many guys do we have this year? Maybe like
Well, 15 with a bunch of part-timers that just mow and go, 3
versus
days a
like
week.
a club that has like 40. It's like all you could be doing is just like walk mowing greens and that's it. Bunkers, and it's like we don't even walk mow here. So like when they get to jump on a ferry more or triplex, they like coming from a private to public, they're kind of just like, whoa, you're gonna let me go on this? Are you sure? But
Connor, what do you think is good leadership? What have you seen that, let me put it this way, what have you seen that you liked when you're being managed by whoever?
What I like, I think, is the big thing is just showing that like you're with them and not against them. Like, yeah, we're here to do this job together. I'm not trying to make your life hard. We're trying to do this together. I always like try to crack jokes with the crew. Like, first roll up in the morning, crack a joke. Let's try and get a vibe with the crew. Like, if I get a bunch of sad faces, it's like, right, I might have to play cheerleader today.
Yeah, and there can be some sad faces at 6 in the morning, huh?
Yeah, but then if we get through, everyone's smiling. It's like, all right, this will be a good day. Let's ride this wave and get everyone keep going. And no matter what job, like, it doesn't matter if we're in the bunkers, laying sod, or we're changing holes. Either way, you got to get everyone on the same page and a good attitude.
And if you're a leader and you're in a bad mood, you can't show it. You shouldn't show it, and it's easier said than done. And
Yes,
you should say good morning and how you doing, and listen to people. And I have to remind myself that I'm a human just like everyone, and I get involved in whatever's in my mind. And could be a irrigation issue or stressed out. I might just walk by people and just and you gotta remind myself that without these people working for you, you won't be able to get your job done.
David, you just made quick mention of something that I think is worth repeating. A good leader listens. I can't stress that enough, and I tend to talk too much. I tend to jump into conversations too quickly. I can tell you that a good leader listens, digests that information, taking it a bit further, digests that information, and then chooses to take action on it or not. I think that's a really valuable point.
I've learned a lot since I was their age, and I had my first, management role or leadership role. I was, a little more uptight. I'm a little more easier going, even though I have my moments. But, you gotta look at the big picture and can't let the little things bother you.
Yeah.
And the younger generation are different than my generation, and totally different than my father's generation.
Yeah.
And, and so you have to learn to work with, not only if I was involved with these very people in the room, I'd have to learn how to work with them, but they have to learn to work with people their same age who it's just a summer job for them. Let's face it, it's a summer job. I mean,
For many.
you not you, but
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're in it for a career, but for all the staff that are there, you might have some semi-retired guys that they've done their time in whatever industry, and they're just want something to do for the summer, and they don't want stress. And then you've got a lot of summer students that are there for probably around minimum wage, that just looking for a job to pay for their tuition. So you got to make it a fun environment. Like Connor said, we're all in it together. Mixing up jobs. Don't let people feel that they're line trimming. Just because some guy's really good at line trimming, don't get him to line trim every single day. He's gonna go nuts. You gotta mix it up a bit. And if someone doesn't want to line trim, well, you gotta kind of remind them that, hey, we're all in this together. We have to, it's managing people. It's being successful in any industry is managing people, and it's not easy. But the best people you've had, Dean Baker in here, Corey Jansen in here.
Yeah, we have
I
Corey.
mean, these guys, why are they so successful? Yes, they can grow grass, but they are great communicators and they can manage people. That's why they can grow grass.
Some of the things I took down for leadership communicators, and this is not a complete list at all, but to provide leadership, job variety, listens, you're part of a team, good communicator, all those things, if I were to ask that on a quiz, they'd all be examples of good leadership: job variety, a listener, team member, and a communicator. At the Vic Park complexes, is there a typical day?
Yeah.
What is a typical day?
Well,
Just very.
Well, probably no different than any of your days. I mean, you know, I like to come in a little early. First thing I do in summers, if we're watering, I have to check the system. Our irrigation systems aren't great. At our new course, it's much better. But at the East Golf Course, it's one of the older decoder type Rainbird systems, if you've taken irrigation yet and understand what that means. So there are some hiccups. We have old pipes. So to make sure, and it's a dry golf course. So, you know, I can't.
You want it to be a dry golf.
Well, I don't want to lose grass.
No, but.
You know, because, yeah, we do, but then again, when you have it on the drier side and you miss a day of watering, you could get in trouble.
Yes.
So that's during the summer, dog days of summer, shall we say, where it's hot and dry, or even humid and dry, or yes, you got to worry about disease, but we worry about irrigation at our course just to make sure it worked and everything is fine. And I'm always thinking about the crew. And we have our basic jobs.
A job board in the morning?
Job during the board, not electronic, just
No.
old-fashioned
Yeah,
dry
yeah.
erase marker. And
Yeah.
you know, at our East course, we usually the superintendent or the assistant, or with Jack, they'll drag the fairways, so they whip, we call it.
Yeah.
And it's a practice for dollar spot management, and it's also your tour of the golf course. So you're on the greens, you're looking at a couple of holes that the hole changers just changed. You're kind of looking, feeling around for moisture. If a green has been cut, you're kind of checking that out. You know, you're obviously constantly looking for, you know, is there any active dollar spot? If it's just typical weather, if it's really, really hot and humid, you might be looking for brown patch or, God forbid, pythium, or, you know, if you have a history of anthracnose. So you're that's your tour. You've got to be out there.
So every superintendent, every leader in a golf course environment anyway has to do a tour of the facility daily.
Or they have to rely on someone that's going to do it.
Yeah.
And report back to them.
Yeah.
And you know, some golf courses, and maybe Jack and Connor, you know, out west, they've worked with some, you know, really great guys with really great staff, that they have that competent staff that could go do that for them and report back to them.
Yeah.
I'm just a kind of old school guy.
Yeah.
I've got to see it.
Yeah.
I've got to see it. And then, like, I kind of use this phrase, like, you know, the golfers are coming. They're coming. They're not stopping. So, and the show must go on. So between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. is our time. Is our time. Like, if something breaks down, the mechanic can't, you know, hum and haw. Like, you know, if we got to change heads on this more to that more to get that more back out there, like, the show must go on. If the, you know, we have a top dressing window to top dress greens, if something happens, drop everything you're doing. Let's get this thing back up. Let's switch vehicles. We can't stop and wait. No one's going to wait for us. So if we don't get it done, it's not getting done.
Do you have a mechanic?
Yes.
What's his name?
We have Mark at the East Course and Peter at the
I've
Valley.
never met them.
And they're kind of not full-time, 12 months a year. They're both, you know, seasonal mechanics, and it's their, you know, they're great guys, and both of them are just learning the golf course.
Yes.
And that they didn't work in that all their life.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, the show must go on. You've got to keep the crew going. Like, we're talking a lot. It seems like after break time, whether that's 10 or 11, and Matt's listening, you know, it's like things kind of done. Just, okay, what do you want to do after? You know, we pretty well got the course mowed. We got everything mostly done now. Okay, you guys want to go work on this. It's kind of, the golfers are all over the golf course.
Yeah.
But if we don't get ahead of the golfers, it's just, our efficiency just drops to, you know, terrible levels. We're out there, we're not getting the job done, we're making everyone unhappy. There's danger from golf balls flying everywhere. So it seems like that first 4 hours in the morning, I don't usually get away too much. I'm around just to make sure things get done.
Very quickly, do you cut greens daily? Do you roll
Yeah,
greens
yeah.
regularly? What, just, you're cutting fairways, how often?
So we have at the East Course, we kind of have a schedule. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we cut tees, fairways, those days. And then every day we cut greens, and we'll roll greens on Wednesdays, which are men's night. And on weekends, we roll them as well. Fridays as well.
Yeah.
Bunkers, it's kind of,
This year
It
was a
always
blessing, you didn't
changes.
have to do any bunker work,
I
did you?
loved it.
And that's what I'm
And the
hearing from
golfers,
everybody.
and golfers never complained.
Well, what somebody, was it Dean that said it? Golfers don't know how to rake a bunker anyway.
No, but they didn't complain because we had that excuse, and they just used their foot and improved the lie.
It's a little bit like
And then-
having ball washers.
No one complained.
Did anyone really miss them this year when you were playing, if you played golf? Did you miss ball washers? I didn't. And I hack up the ball pretty good.
I heard a few comments about ball washers. I heard nothing about bunkers, but I heard something about ball washers, believe it or not.
Bunkers are meant to be penal.
Yeah. But you can improve your lie, right? So this year, there was no excuse, because a golfer can,
Yeah,
at our
himself-
course, with their foot or whatever, and improve their lie. It was great. Whereas the other years, we would spend so much time on bunkers, and then, either the golfers wouldn't rake them, so they looked like crap, or the geese would walk in them, or, you know what I mean? It'd be hours later, you wouldn't even know you raked them. Well, this
Yeah.
year,
No one cared.
it didn't matter,
Yeah.
so.
Pretty cool. David, you mentioned before, and I didn't have time to write this down. What are your turf varieties at each course?
At our east course, we're Poa bent, and the bentgrass variety is the original Pencross creeping
Yes.
bentgrass, which was the creeping bentgrass of the day. And our greens probably are, 70-30, 60-40, 50-50. Some have more bentgrass, but a lot of them are 40% Poa, or 40% bentgrass, 60%
So
Poa.
the entire course is Poa bent.
Correct, and the fairways are Poa bent, and they might have a little more bent grass than Poa.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the East Course, Poa bent,
And
top to back.
tees are bent, tees are in a lot of ryegrass. Par threes, we've been pumping ryegrass, overseeding with ryegrass
So a bit of ryegrass.
in the tees,
overseed.
and then Poa bent in the par fours and fives.
Tees, okay. I don't know why this interests me so much, because I can't identify grass very well, but Poa bent with a little bit of ryegrass overseed on tees. That would summarize the East Course.
Correct.
And then you talked about a Lomo Kentucky Blue at the Valley.
So the greens are seeded to T1 creeping bentgrass, a newer variety. 12 years ago, we seeded it. Very good, very aggressive, very good at keeping Poa out, and they've maintained, there's some specks of Poa coming in, but being, 10 years old, 12 years old since we seeded them, 10 years old since we opened up the golf course, that's not bad. And the fairways and tees, we seeded to a Lomo Lomo Kentucky Bluegrass blend.
And what do you think of that? Has it worked out well?
Well, we're kind of losing it, and I'm a
Okay.
little, so native creeping bent grasses are coming in. So we don't have the resources, and I don't even know if you can, to really fight that, or, you could kill it and reseed it, but we don't have those resources, so.
Okay.
We tried to maintain it and manage it as much as we can, because again, we wouldn't have to treat for dollar spot, we wouldn't have to treat for snow mold. It was purely an economic thing, and we cut it a little higher, and I find your ball sits up a little higher. And,
Drought holds water better.
yeah, drought.
Guys,
Drought
do you,
tolerance?
with all this Poa, do you, at least at the east, sorry, I should correct myself. At the East Course, with all this Poa bent mix, do you tarp all your greens?
No.
And how do they get through the winter? Okay?
So I believe, my philosophy is, if right now we haven't had, at our golf course, we haven't lost our greens to winter damage, ice desiccation or crown hydration, on a regular basis, that I think we need to tarp them, because once you start tarping them, you're allowing the weaker Poa to survive.
Yeah.
The populations just keep going and going. If I was at a golf course that had a lot of Poa that had a prone to suffering from winter damage, we'd have no choice,
Yeah.
and we would tarp them.
Yeah.
But right, it's almost like survival of the fittest. So if whatever survives out there is a real hardy grass, whether it's
Right,
POA or
yeah,
bent.
Yeah,
Golfers know two different kinds of grass, my friend, brown and green, dead and alive. So as long as you have a healthy stand of turf, they don't know what it is.
yeah.
And that's,
It's
you know,
true,
you
it's
know,
true, it's
And
true.
some of the best golf courses are POA, let's face
Well,
it.
how many, this leads me to the question, at the courses you've worked at, if you're in the golf course environment, how many of you tarp your greens? 1, 2, 3, 3.5, sort of. Yeah, I guess you got
I
the
mean,
right
there's,
plan there.
I mean, most people would love a brand new bent grass greens, cause POA has a lot of issues, but you know, some courses like Oak Mount, one of the most famous golf courses in the world, they have 100% POA, it's been there for 100 years, and they do not wanna change that. And it provides
just
the
heard that. We
best
just
cutting
heard that.
surface ever, so.
We heard that
Yeah.
exact thing. I was shocked. And I've heard David from Oakmont speak before. And I can't believe their greens are 100 years old. They've never tried to improve them. You know, like,
the Cotton Fields, I call it the Cotton Club, but Cotton Fields, they're going through a renovation program, as you all know, and they're rebuilding some of their greens, and, you know, some of the members have called me up and, you know, said, well, what do you think? How come you're not rebuilding your greens? And I have to vote on rebuilding these greens, and I said, well, you know, you've experienced some winter damage, you know, 3 of the last 5 years, and you're playing temporary greens till July. I said, how was that? You know,
Yeah.
so obviously, so the POA in those greens are not surviving the winter,
yeah.
and so.
They haven't got their feet in there
You know,
yet,
so,
right.
so if I was in your boat, I'd vote to rebuild too. But the POA, you know, the percentage of POA and the POA types at Victoria Park East, knock on wood, they've just survived the winters for the most part. And so I don't have a need to rebuild them right now. That may change in years and years.
Dormant top dress though.
We do a dormant top dress, which is like a cover. So Jack just commented, we just went out earlier this week, and
Yeah, we just
last
put
week.
sand on, we just lightly mat it in, just so it kinda protects the crown. And then we don't like pick up the sand, we just leave it.
Okay, here it is, and I've asked this question, I think in front of you guys before. If I haven't, this is my main question with turf managers. Why doesn't anybody do things the same way? Dave DeCorso and team does it one way, Corey Jansen does it another way, Dean Baker does it another way. Are there not standard practices for caring for turf?
Dave DeCorso.
Asked as a landscape architect.
Dave DeCorso does it different at Victoria Park Valley than Victoria Park East.
Why?
Big time. It's just they're
Why?
different conditions. You have as a
Different,
different
Different
growing
soils.
environments, different soils, different species.
Microclimates.
You have to be like I have had some issues at our valley course with excessive organic matter in the top 1 inch, and because I was managing it, these greens, just like I was managing the 45-year-old Victoria Park East greens, which are bent POA, and it's an older type of bent grass, and I had to almost get into some serious trouble before I realized what was happening and had totally changed my management techniques for 2 golf courses. That's hard to do.
And that's
That's hard to
that
do.
seems like
So,
that seems like a real pain in the ass.
So,
to me. Sorry guys, but that seems unfair.
so we do things a lot different at one course than the next.
Isn't that?
And,
Yeah.
so
Same community, you know.
5 kilometers apart,
Yeah.
you know, and then we're managing them the exact same, and realized success on one golf course was not giving us success at another
Very
golf course.
interesting. I'm watching time. Few last questions. Any construction projects, recent construction projects at Vic Park facilities, or anything coming up that might be of interest to these guys? You know, maybe thinking of staying local and going to your course.
Nothing major,
Yeah.
that I can speak of. We're planning to rebuild our 18th hole at the East Course, just the fairway part, because it's more of a drainage issue, just raise it up, but nothing grandiose or bunkering or greens. Like some of the, you know, great golf courses of Ontario are all going through some very cool changes, like
Yeah.
Cotton Fields, Burlington, I think, did Corey do a green not too long ago at Westmount or last year or something? So,
Few years.
yeah, so there's some, you know, so we're not doing anything.
Okay. Sort of second last question. What professional organizations do you belong to? CGSA, OGSA, Landscape Ontario, what? And what would you advise people to
Well,
join?
to join, I guess the OGSA for sure.
Here, if you're working in Ontario.
You know, the OG, yeah, I guess each province,
Yes,
that
yeah.
their provincial association. You know, your students all became members of the GCSAA because they used to go to the conference for
Right,
the turf board.
right.
And you know, whether they can keep affording that,
Yeah.
that's a very interesting organization.
It's
A lot of
it's
resources come
a
out of
lot
that.
of resources
you know.
from the GCSAA, the
You know.
American Association.
I'm a member of the National Golf Course Owners Association because I wear a different hat, which now has taken over the CGSA, but
yeah.
I was a member, but at some point I had to make a decision because I was spending a lot of money to become a member of so many associations. So, and we participate in our, like the WOGSA, which is the Western Ontario Golf Association. They just have like golf events and meetings. It's very low key, but networking and just have some golf days. And I encourage you people, if you get the opportunity, to join those types. Every region has one. Glegs has one.
Ottawa Valley.
Ottawa Valley.
Yeah, yeah.
Georgian.
Georgian
Georgian Bay, yeah, yeah.
So they're all.
David, are you a member of OTRF?
And I'm a member of OTRF, but that's, yeah, I don't.
OTRF is the Ontario Turfgrass Research Foundation.
Yes.
And as I started off our talk today, I don't know David's dad well, but I know David has always been involved. Can I go on a small rant here for a second? Please, here we go. And I'm off camera, so you'll just hear a voice. Please join the association that you feel most strongly about, whether it's to benefit you or that you can benefit it, and give your time and energy, not just your money, give your time and energy to these associations. I was telling the second year guys in my closing comments today, I was a member of the Ontario Association of Landscape Architects and the Canadian Society of Landscape Architects for nearly 30 years. And it cost me a heck of a lot of money too. And I didn't do one thing to assist those organizations other than give them my money. What a shame. What a shame that, and here David having done so much for golf in this area and in Ontario. I didn't give back not one bit of my time, and I regret that deeply now. So get involved in your association. It's a great way to network, I would think, in the turfgrass industry, and to get known. Write an article for a magazine, for an association magazine. Give a talk at a conference, and give back as much as you receive.
And if that's not your thing, but even participate. Like I have turf friends, and they don't even go to the conference, or they don't go to the field days. So, I've taken, not really Connor, but Jack, the Ontario conference was Niagara Falls last year, and, you guys went, and I went to bed way before you. You ended up hanging out in the lounge and met all kinds of people that were somehow connected to, well, everyone's connected to golf somehow, you know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
oh, you're so-and-so, and you were so-and-so, and where do you work? And there's a lot of knowledge that can be gained just by sitting around having a beer with some
yeah.
turf guys.
Two final questions. To Jack and Connor, how has the journey been since completing school? I know you've come, if I may say, come back to Guelph. Have you found this business to be what you trained for? Are you happy with where you're at? Your expectations? Anything you want to share about that?
Yeah, for me personally, it's kind of like, it's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of a slap in the face, because when push comes to shove, when it's like, okay, when do you fertilize? What do you fertilize with? Is this active disease? Is it not active disease? There's high plugs, the irrigation didn't run, plus you got three guys, doing jack all behind the cart shed. It's like, it's kind of a slap in the face where it's like, okay, I
Sure
still
is.
got, like, I'm just dipping my foot into the water here. Like, it's a long time till I can be someone like my dad, you know, at the top and kind of do
Yeah.
it all. So, but I definitely learned a bunch prior to joining the program.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's you kind of think like after you graduate, like, you know, you kind of know you can be the guy, but it's still, you still got a long way
Still
to go. in
long-
some
long way to
sense.
go.
It's, yeah.
Well put, Jack.
Like
Connor?
Like Jack said, like, you come out, you're thinking like, all right, I'm gonna start looking for, I'm gonna test for nematodes, I'm gonna look for this, this, and this. In reality, you're like, shit, I gotta make sure those T-blocks are changed so the T-deck isn't getting mangled. Yeah, you're not really gonna look for all these sciencey stuff. That's more, yeah, like Jack said, a long way away. It's good to practice that, like,
Yes.
and, ask questions, but at the end of the day, you're almost just kind of there to
Yeah,
bring
you gotta
awareness to the super and the assistants.
get your
and help
hands
them
on
out.
too, because I mean, at the end of the day, you can know all this stuff about like all these different types of like bent grasses and stuff, but in reality, if like you can't operate like a front end loader, or you can't operate like a loader and just do simple stuff with basic tractors and machinery, it's like no one's gonna really want you. Like, you can know all this about this L93 bent grass, but it's like,
You gotta have some practical and applied
yeah,
skills too.
it's gotta be practical. It's half a trade too. Like, I mean, it's a golf course. You gotta know all that stuff, but at the end of the day, you gotta be pretty skilled with your hands too.
And my advice to these two guys and to all of you is be patient with yourselves. Like, just be patient. It's a career. It's like, you know, I've been in it for 35 years and I'm still going. So
Yeah.
be patient. Don't expect to be, you know, in 2 years know everything and do everything. Just be patient with yourselves, and skills that you take from where a lot of you went to other programs and other schools. I mean, it's all development, all learning, you know. Just like, and back to the basics. Like, the show's got to go on. The golfer's got to go to the first tee. The tee blocks have to be pointed to the target. They got to be in a fresh spot. Like, most people think, how basic is that? Well, it's number one. I mean, first impressions are lasting impressions. So, you know, the pin's got to be cut straight. Just the basics has to be done. You know?
Attention to detail.
Yes, ropes and signs can't be all waggly and you know, and no care. It's just attention to detail. The other stuff, it's there. It'll come. That's the foundation. But attention to detail, and you know, I've learned from some great superintendents, Polino Senna,
Yes.
you know,
The
and
great
attention to
Polino
detail, and you know, Gordon Witteveen, the late Gordon Witteveen, wrote a book, and his book is all about the magic of greenkeeping, and it's not technical scientific stuff. It's basic stuff, you know, and T blocks, you know, it's just,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, that's what, you know,
It's gotta be done.
and it's just, you'll just make all the friends in the world. The members will be your friends, the golfers will be your friends, the pro shop will be your friend. It's like I said, we have to provide a great playing surface for these customers, and you know, they don't care that you've had a disease, you know, and they're out there with a sprayer. Actually, they don't even want to see it. They don't even
Yeah,
want to know
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah. Don't tell me your problem.
Yeah, but they you know, they
Yeah.
don't want the guy that's changing a hole that puts every single hole in the back corner because thinks it's cool because it's men's day. They don't want that. You know what I mean? They want a nice balanced course setup, and you know, and the tee blocks all at the back, and you know, you don't want to piss anyone off. It's and no one thinks like that. It's
That's a general rule of life.
that's
Yeah.
right. So, but it's
Folks,
just back to basics.
Yeah, back to basics. Folks, I think we'll wrap it up there. It's 25 to 5, and I hope you enjoyed. I could sit up here with guys like this for hours, just talking about what their lives are like. And again, I'm not in the business. You guys are, so I hope you're getting out of this as much as I have, especially over the last 5 years of my career here at the university, where I was involved in this class. Guys, are there any final comments, or are you good? You good with what you've said?
Thank you for inviting us.
Well, a pleasure.
And, you know, I'm basically one of you guys. I really am. That's who I am.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've just been doing it longer.
Well, I know these two are one of
Yeah.
one of the DTMers.
But, you know, it's like we're all the same. This is
Yeah,
my
just
calling.
you're
and,
further along in the journey.
That's it,
Yeah, yeah,
that's it,
yeah.
so.
Folks, round of applause, please. Guys, next week, thank you so much. Next week.